Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the MetaStellar YouTube channel. And if you are looking for some free science fiction and fantasy books to get you through this weekend, we've got them. Oh, here's the MetaStellar logo, in case you don't know what it looks like. So every Friday, the team here at MetaStellar reads the first few chapters of each of the top 5 free fantasy and science fiction books on Amazon. So on today's list, we got a sexy druid, a sexy necromancer, a sexy werewolf, and a space marine who has seen too much. So before we get to all that, hi everybody, welcome back to our channel. My name is Maria KOROLOV. I'm the editor here at MetaStellar, and I want to thank editors E.S. Foster and Lilibet Dominguez-Torres for helping me out with today's reviews. And Emma is here with us today. Hi, Emma.
Hey,
All right, so let's get straight into the books. Okay, so starting with book number 5, let me make that a little bit bigger for you guys. Here it is. And this is The Scarlet Huntress by T. Spangsberg, one of 5 books in the Shattered Fairy Tales, a romantic fantasy series. And these books can be read in any order. The other books are $4 each, but they're all in Kindle Unlimited. Kindle Unlimited is where you pay $12 a month and you read all the books you want, as long as you don't mind reading them all on Amazon, or on your Kindle device, as opposed to like a different bookstore. And this is the author's first time on our Free Friday list, and Emma read this for us. Emma, what did you think of this book?
so I knew going in that this was going to be like a take on the Red Riding Hood fairy tale, and I'm always kind of on the fence with fairy tale retelling, so just getting into this one, it starts off with Ruby. Her grandmother has just died, and she's looking over the gravestone she just made for her on the land her family has lived on for generations. It's very cold, the snow is piling up everywhere. She lives out in this cabin in the middle of nowhere, and it turns out that her grandmother has just been killed by this great beast. So it's this mysterious monster that's been roaming the land for who knows how long. And she knew that her grandmother couldn't handle fighting on her own anymore, but for some reason, while Ruby was gone, her grandmother encountered the beast and decided to try to slay it, and she ended up losing her life. So she's wondering how her grandmother could have made this mistake. Now that her parents have been killed by this beast, she's all alone in the world, that type of thing. So she sets out to find this beast on her own and slay it once and for all. So it turns out that Ruby's family has been hunting monsters for generations. Her parents were killed, like I mentioned, this happened years earlier. Now her grandmother's gone and she's alone, so she vows to just start walking down the trail without really any plan, because through all this, her judgment is a little clouded because she's been drinking a lot. So now at the point that she's drunk, she's like, I'm gonna go out and slay this beast once and for all because what he did to my family. But she's walking in the snow with a bottle of whiskey, and that's how she's starting out the hunt. So it's not going so well for her. So the story then shifts to Peter's perspective. He's riding on a horse through the snow. All of a sudden, he spots out this person stumbling along, clearly drunk, in the snow, and he goes to help and finds out that it's Ruby. So she's falling over drunk at this point. So Peter lifts her onto his horse and brings her back to the cabin because it's like the closest place nearby. And he thinks, okay, maybe someone here can help, or she lives here. And he gets her inside. So he tries to get her all comfy because she's drenched from the snow. She's still completely out of it. He partially undresses her before she wakes up and puts a knife to his throat. So like the author wants us to believe that he's doing this because she's completely like safe, and that he's just doing this in an innocent way because she's drenched in the cold snow and he doesn't want her to like get frostbite or anything like that or catch pneumonia. But I'm still suspicious because I would be freaked out if someone ever tried to do this while I was under the influence. So thankfully, Ruby wakes up a little and she's able to hold a knife to his throat. But then she makes this really weird decision of getting into bed and she urges him to start sleeping next to her. I don't know why, but again, it's supposed to be like innocent, but neither of these characters are making good decisions right now for me. So they both end up falling asleep. And Ruby wakes up later and she's like, why is there a random guy in my bed? And then instead of freaking out, they start making out instead. Because at first she's like, why is this guy here? I was drunk. What could have happened? And then all of a sudden she's like, actually, this guy is pretty hot. So she's making a bunch of dumb decisions today. And I know. So while they're doing this, Peter then has this realization that Ruby is part of the Red Shield family. So this is the family I mentioned who've been hunting monsters, and it turns out he happens to be one of these monsters. And it's also explained that he has this wolf spirit attached to him, and right now it wants nothing more than to sort of manifest itself out of him and attack Ruby for being this hunter. So Peter tries to escape, but Ruby goes after him with a knife and she stabs him. But Peter bites her shoulder, and then he turns into a werewolf and runs away. And so when he bites Ruby, he also has this vision of her as his mate on top of all of that. So this is like some of the wildest thing that I have read in a very long time. This is a very wild book that I reviewed. So luckily Peter escapes, but Ruby vows to track him down. So I didn't know what I was getting into when I first started this book. I just knew it would be a take on the Red Riding Hood story. So things like shifting and romance aren't my cup of tea. And also, it was kind of annoying that the characters kept making all these really, really dumb decisions. So I do have to admit, though, the story was engaging. A lot of it was me looking at it like, okay, what on earth is going to happen next? I kind of want to know just because of how wild it is. So I don't think I'll continue it, but if you enjoy werewolves and romance and like who knows what else is happening with this book, I recommend you check it out.
So is this set in a modern day or is it like a fantasy fairy tale setting?
It's like a fantasy fairy tale setting, but it's like so far all of it was taking place in the middle of the woods in the snow and like a cabin. So it might have been, but then also later it shifts to this village, so I'm thinking it is like the fairy tale version. It's not modern day.
Yeah, because like the guy's on a horse, so I'm thinking,
Yeah.
oh, it's historic, but then she's like drinking whiskey or something, and I'm like, oh, that sounds kind of modern.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing making out with a random guy sounds super modern,
Yeah, exactly.
you know? Okay, so next, another magical medieval fairy tale fantasy setting kind of romance. And it is The Songbird in the Forest by Emma Elizabeth. Let me make that a little bit bigger for you guys. This is the first of three books in the creatures. Okay, in the creatures of Doman na Ruin. I take it it's a Welsh inspired title, and it's a romantic fantasy series. The other books are $3 each, but they're in Kindle Unlimited. Third book isn't out yet, but is scheduled to be released next month, and it's also the author's first time on our list. So as you can tell by the cover, there's going to be romance in there. Dahlia is the female protagonist, and she's a necromancer. And she normally spends her time taking care of her shop in the Dead City when she's asked to go and represent her city at a celebration in some foreign kingdom. She's excited, and she and her cat get to go on this adventure. She doesn't usually get to travel, and so she's looking forward to it. Oh, and Fluffy, her cat, is a reanimated skeleton of a cat because she's a necromancer. Then, after we meet her and we learn about a little bit about her life. In the next chapter, we switch to the point of view of Alex, a dryad who's also kind of bored with hanging out in the same place all the time. And this dryad, whose pronoun is they, sees a person riding on a skeleton horse and thinks that this person is the most beautiful person they've ever seen. Then we switch back to Dahlia's point of view. And I'm thinking we're switching back and forth between points of view. There's people kissing on the cover. Um, there's going to be romance in this book. And yeah, so Dahlia has raised a horse skeleton from the dead to go on this trip. So she's the one who's riding the skeleton horse. The horse is named Misty, and her skeleton cat is with her on the horse. And so people are giving her a wide berth because, she's riding on a skeleton. Um, but she's kind of like, oh no, people are giving me a wide berth. I should charm them with my warmth and glowing personality. So I like her. I like her style. So she gets to the woods and sees a weird tree, and the tree disappears when she tries to look closer at it. And then it reappears again, startling her. She screams, the horse bucks, she falls off the horse, and the dryad catches her in their arms. And Dahlia thinks the dryad is the most beautiful thing she's ever seen. And when Dahlia and the dryad introduce themselves, they also tell each other their preferred pronouns. Like Dahlia says, "Hi, I'm Dahlia. You can call me she, her." And, and the dryad says, "I'm Alex. I'm they, them." So, now I stopped reading right there. I'm not going to go any further, but not because of the pronouns. I love the pronouns. I thought it was super, super cute. Um, the thing that I have about the book is that everyone's nice. It feels like a perfectly wonderful magical love story in this cute little magical kingdom. The fact that she's a necromancer uh, almost gives her an edge, kind of thing. But she names the cat Fluffy and the horse Misty, so the edge kind of goes right away again. Um, Nobody's killed in this first few chapters. There's no fighting. There's no murder. Everybody's nice. Yeah, my cold dead heart cannot take it. So I am not going to be sticking with this book. All right, moving on to something a little bit creepier. We have Voices in the Dark by Ariel Dawn, the first of two books in the Monsters of Ashwood, a paranormal romance series. The other book is $4, but it is in Kindle Unlimited, and it's the author's first time on our list. And Lilibet Dominguez Torres read this for us, but since Lilibet is not here, Emma, could you tell us about this book?
Yeah, so it looks like Lilybeth really enjoyed this one. So it starts off with Jenna, and everyone thinks that she's kind of crazy because she hears voices and she's drawn to like the darkness. So it turns out that she's actually able to see ghosts, she can hear their voices, she senses the supernatural, that type of thing. So she's not actually crazy. But apparently she's just getting out of Shady Side, so it's a mental institution, and she's been there for a little while. She's trying to get her life together now that she's out. So she's been working at this place called the Ashwood Visitor Center for a few months, and she's living in this group home. She's earning her own money, but then everything changes when she decides to buy the Ashwood Manor. So apparently, it's this abandoned place. It's been abandoned for hundreds of years after this gruesome murder that's rumored to have happened in it. But Jenna can't help feeling drawn to it. So the darkness of the manor draws her closer every time she looks at it. She's dying to know why. She really wants to know what's in there. So apparently, the house is haunted, but it's not until Jenna buys the house to live in that she will understand what exactly is haunting it and why. So, considering this is a novella, Lilibet says she thinks it's safe to say that she'll continue reading it just to see where it goes. She likes how the mysterious house is, how mysterious the house is, and the fact that in three chapters you sort of get a glimpse of who or what might be haunting the house, but you don't know why yet. So she enjoyed the fast pace of the story. She can't wait to know more about Jenna, what will happen now that she has bought the biggest haunted house in this small town. So if you're looking for something like really quick to read, then she recommends that you check this out.
All right, thanks. Okay, so the next book is also in a similar vein. Hollow by Amanda Sinatra. It's the first of three books in the Hollow series of paranormal romance. The other books. Okay, so I was super confused about this. Okay, let me make this a little bit bigger for you guys so you can see the book cover that I'm talking about. So the Hollow series, when I search for it on Amazon, it seems to have three books in it: Hollow, Shattered, and Fallen. Shattered is only available as an out of print secondhand book. Fallen isn't anywhere on Amazon or any other bookstore that I could find. And this book is called like a special edition. And so I think this book is a combination of the first two books in the series, Hollow and Shattered, and it includes the first chapter of Fallen. So I looked through the author's website, could not find that either. So if you know what's going on, leave a comment in the comments and like straighten us out. Or maybe she's in a process of re-uploading her books or something. Um, anyway, Emma read this for us. Emma, what did you think of this book?
I really liked it. I liked the premise, like the different concepts and the ideas that were brought into it. So it starts off with this young woman. She wakes up in the middle of the woods. She has no memory of how she got there. And actually, she has no memory at all. She can't remember her name, how old she is, how she got there. She just knows that she's lying there in the darkness, and then all of a sudden she feels tons of pain. Like all of a sudden she had these wounds, and now she's suddenly starting to feel them. She also hears what sounds like several people walking around nearby, but when she finally opens her eyes, she sees this strange man standing over her, and he's the only one. Her pain subsides, and she sits up, still has no idea who or what she is. And then this guy explains that he has saved her life and that she needs to go with him if she wants to live because there are terrible people after her. So it's presumed that the people from before that she heard have been driven away by this guy. So obviously, this girl doesn't trust him, but she follows him anyway because she has no idea what's going on. And she realizes that she can't remember any of the basics of her life. And also, while they're walking, she's able to jump over a high wall without any effort. She just runs a bit and then she's able to completely scale, like I imagine, like this 10-foot wall. So they make their way to this small cottage in the middle of the forest. There, the man, who is named Theodore, greets this woman who lives there, and then they ask this girl if she's ready to start a new life. So without any other options, she says, I guess, and she heads inside. So the girl inspects herself in the bathroom mirror and she's trying to figure out who she is. And suddenly she has this vision of a young girl. She's wearing like this pretty sunflower dress, she's got red hair. Her name is Ivy, and she's playing with her kite and her dog. So she isn't sure if this is a memory or if it's something else entirely. So then Theodore explains to her that he has turned her into a Dampier, which is like half human, half vampire type of thing. And it's a very difficult process, but to prove that he's an actual vampire, he pulls out this bag of blood, bites into it, and then drains it. So he is a vampire. He turned her like half vampire. And at first she doesn't believe it, but then she sees him do that and she's like, okay, maybe he is telling the truth. Maybe he's not crazy and I'm not with a bunch of serial killers in the middle of the woods. She also realizes that she's kind of drawn to the blood, but that hasn't yet convinced her that she is this half human, half vampire thing. So Theodore explains that the girl was found attacked in the woods. He only turned her to save her. It's like when you turn into a Demphier or a vampire, it's a very tricky process, and it will take a few days to know if everything will work. But in the process, you do lose all of your memories. He also explains that if she doesn't like if these changes don't end up working out, then she will succumb to the injuries that she sustained, she didn't know she had, and she has no memory of them. So she will eventually die if this doesn't work. Theodore also announces that she will meet with someone who's going to train her in the ways of the vampires and everything, because this is her new life now. And she doesn't really have a home to go back to. She doesn't remember any of it. But there are some perks to it. Some include that she stopped aging, she's able to walk in the sun and eat human food, so she can kind of still live as a human, but also not. So she decides to stay at this little cottage, but before she goes to bed, Theodore announces that her new name is Ivy because he gets to give her a new name. And it's the same name as the girl from her dream, memory, whatever it was. So the mystery has kind of only pulled me in further, and I really want to know what happens to her. And normally I don't read vampire novels, but I did love the beginning of this one. I love the premise. I love the idea of turning into something and just being like, it's not standard vampire novel, where it's like you lose your memories and everything. So I really thought that was interesting. And I thought I might stick with this one because it's not something that I've seen in other vampire stories.
Is this set in the present day or kind of like ancient stuff?
I think this is done present day because it's like she's flying a kite,
Oh,
and
right, right.
there's a television in the cottage, even
Oh,
though they
yeah,
like
that gives it away. Yeah.
yeah, they like leave it unplugged, but it's like because I remember it was a detail that the author put in there, and then the girl was like, "Oh, is that for show to make it seem like that they're normal people and not serial killers?" So, but then I thought, okay, so this is set in the modern day.
All right. So before we go on to book number one on today's list, which is totally completely different because it's got like aliens and space travel in it, I want to thank our supporters. Let me make that a little bit bigger for you guys so you can see all their names. We love you guys. Here at MetaStellar, we are all of us editors are volunteers. So the money that's raised goes to pay for original fiction. You can see this original fiction on our website. We publish free short stories every week, and we also publish anthologies. So we've got 3 anthologies out now. Links in the description box below. Currently working on anthology number 4. And we just completed our fall submission cycle, literally last night at midnight on Halloween. Anyway, and those stories are going to be starting to be published soon as well. So, and I want to mention that Emma Foster is editor and book coach. So her website's here, and you can get the link in the description below. And I have books up on Amazon. All right. Book number 1 on today's list is Kenai by Dave Dobson, a standalone sci-fi adventure. But if you like the author's style, he's got other science fiction and fantasy books up on Amazon, all of which are in Kindle Unlimited. And when I first took this book, because I thought it was about AI, so I wanted to read it, and I misread the title as Ken AI. I thought it was about an AI called Ken. But it's not. It's about a planet called Kenai. And the protagonist is Jess, and she's a former Marine. And she's decided to come to this planet way out in the middle of nowhere because she's gone through some stuff, as a Marine. And her doctor recommended some peace, quiet, and distance. And she and a few others are providing security to a big team of archaeologists studying a long-dead alien civilization. There's not much for her to do. The local animals are all herbivores, and even the insects don't bite. So she's in her full gear, and all she's doing is just standing around watching a guy dig through things. But there is a little bit of AI in the book. The lead archaeologist has an annoying robot assistant that carries stuff around for him. Then a couple of weird things happen. First, the archaeologist tells her that all the cities on the planet date back to around 50,000 years ago. So this is a long dead civilization. But the site that he's researching dates back only 22,000 years, and it's less advanced than the other cities. So they speculate about what could have happened. She thinks, oh, maybe it's a different set of aliens who invaded it later, or maybe they devolved back after some kind of cataclysm, 50,000 years ago. And he dismisses her ideas as being stupid. And as they're having this discussion, a big bird falls out of the sky right on top of the archaeologist, and the bird's been chopped up into pieces. That caught my attention. And then in the next chapter, we get a flashback to Jess's life back in her old career as a soldier. And at the end of that flashback, something else falls out of the sky and hits someone near her, which kind of explains why we're getting this memory. Then in chapter 3, we're back to the archaeologist who's just been hit by the bird. And before he even has time to say what she's on the move. Her rifle is up. She's scanning the surrounding area. She's looking for energy emissions and other threats. She tries to contact her ship back up in orbit and has a little bit of trouble getting through. She examines the pieces of the dead bird, which has burned edges. So she's like, well, that it's not going to be torn apart by another animal because animals tend not to burn their prey. So she finally connects with a ship. They tell her they don't see anything weird around, but there is a bit of a glitch blocking some of their coverage of the area. And they also report signs of lightning. So maybe lightning hit this bird. But the archaeologist doesn't think that the bird's wounds look like lightning strikes. So, and then they, go back to their site. They bring the pieces of the bird with them. So it's a kind of a slow-paced beginning. So we get some of Jess's backstory. We get this archaeological mystery, her kind of casual banter relationship with the archaeologist, which does not feel romantic, which I like. And we get the dead bird, the weird civilizations. The pacing feels more like a cozy mystery than a space opera adventure. I like it, and I like Jess, despite the lack of big battles right in the first chapter. I can live with that. And I will probably be sticking with the book this weekend. All right, so those were our top 5 free science fiction and fantasy books up on Amazon. I've also put the link to Amazon's free bestseller list in the description box below. Amazon has a list of bestsellers that are free. And it's really hard to find on the website, but it does exist. All the science fiction and fantasy books that are free right now that are best-selling. This list changes all the time because authors make their books free for a very short time to promote the first book in the series or to promote the book. And we get best-selling authors. I think one of the authors on today's list is like a USA Today bestseller, which I should have mentioned but forgot. Um, and USA Today bestselling author. That's Voices in the Dark by Ariel Dawn. So yeah, so you get some fantastic books. They're all super readable because they're bestsellers, and they are free. So definitely check it out. And if you want to get these book reviews every Friday, we have a newsletter you can subscribe to. And of course, you can subscribe to the channel and like this video so other people can find out about us as well. So thanks everybody for joining us, and I'll see you next week. And here's a couple of other videos that YouTube thinks you might like. Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your free reading.
Bye.